I watched my mom die, then saw her alive as a billionaire. I was 8 years old when my mom died in a house fire. At least, that's what everyone said. The neighbors talked about the flames. The police talked about timelines. The funeral was closed casket, and I was told it was better that way. I remembered smoke in my lungs, heat on my skin, and being pulled outside while the house burned behind us. I remembered asking where my mom was and being told she didn't make it out. After that, life shrank. My dad aged fast, money disappeared. Our world became quiet and careful. I learned not to ask questions because the answers always hurt. I kept the memory of her face frozen in time, afraid it would fade if I didn't hold on to it tightly enough. 10 years later, I was working a catering job at a private charity gala, the kind of event where everything sparkled and nothing felt real. I blended into the background, carrying trays and avoiding eye contact with people who lived in a completely different universe. Then the room changed. Everyone stood, cameras flashed, security tightened. A woman entered who clearly owned the space without trying. She moved with confidence, wealth, and absolute control. I barely heard the announcer listing her achievements, her companies, her billions, because I recognized her. Her face was older, sharper, perfected by time and power, but it was unmistakably hers. The same eyes, the same scar, the same presence that once made me feel safe. My hands gave out, the tray shattered, heads turned. She looked directly at me. For a brief moment, the billionaire mask slipped, replaced by something familiar and terrified. She left soon after, surrounded by protection, disappearing into a black car. And as it drove away, I realized the fire hadn't taken my mother. She had escaped it, and whatever she ran from was powerful enough to make her erase herself, and powerful enough to still be watching. The night after the gala, sleep never came. Every time my eyes closed, my mind dragged me back to the fire. The sound of wood cracking, the heat pressing in from every direction, the orange glow that swallowed the walls of my childhood home. I had spent 10 years replaying that moment, believing it ended my life as I knew it. Now I understood it was only the beginning of something far worse. By morning, her face was everywhere. News articles praised her as a visionary. Commentators called her self-made, unstoppable, brilliant. Videos showed her stepping out of private cars, shaking hands with world leaders, smiling for cameras that adored her. No one questioned where she came from. No one wondered who she used to be. That silence felt deliberate. I started researching obsessively. Every company tied to her name, every nonprofit, every patent, every shell corporation. The deeper I went, the stranger it became. Her public life started 9 years ago, as if she had materialized fully formed. No childhood photos, no school records, no family tree. The woman who raised me had been erased with surgical precision. And as I searched, the world around me began to shift. My phone glitched constantly. Messages failed to send. Notifications appeared and vanished. A car I didn't recognize idled near my building more often than coincidence allowed. I felt watched in grocery stores, on sidewalks, even in my own apartment. The words she had used at the gala echoed in my head. Watching. I told myself it was stress, that I was spiraling, that grief could resurrect ghosts and make them feel real. But then the envelope arrived. No stamp, no return address, just my name written neatly across the front. Inside was a photograph that stole the air from my lungs. My house, whole, intact, warm light glowing through the windows. My mother stood in the doorway, mid-laugh, frozen in a moment that was never supposed to exist. On the back, a date was written in ink, 2 weeks before the fire. That was when denial finally collapsed. The fire hadn't been random. It hadn't been tragic coincidence. It had been orchestrated. Memories I had buried began resurfacing with sharp clarity. Strangers lingering near our house. My mom whispering on the phone late at night. The way she hugged me too tightly in the days leading up to the fire, like she was memorizing me. The way my dad avoided every question afterward, shutting down any mention of her name. He hadn't been grieving. He had been hiding. When I confronted him, the truth spilled out in fragments. Powerful people had been looking for her. People who didn't exist on paper, but controlled money, data, governments. She had created something they wanted, something capable of shaping the future in ways that terrified her. When she refused to hand it over, the threats started. The fire was never meant to kill her. It was meant to erase her. She burned her old life to the ground. destroyed everything tying her to who she had been, and vanished before they could take her alive. The closed casket funeral wasn't about sparing a child trauma. It was about ensuring no one looked too closely. Except me. I wasn't supposed to remember details. I wasn't supposed to recognize her face 10 years later. I wasn't supposed to exist in her new world at all. Days later, another envelope appeared. Inside was a key and an address. The building looked ordinary from the outside, tucked between offices that blended into the city skyline. Inside, it was something else entirely. Security checkpoints, silent hallways, walls lined with screens displaying real-time data from across the globe, financial markets, transportation grids, surveillance feeds. It wasn't just a company, it was control. That was where everything finally made sense. She hadn't just survived, she had evolved. She rebuilt herself from nothing, using the same brilliance that once put her in danger. She amassed power so vast that eliminating her would destabilize systems the world depended on. The people who once hunted her now protected her because they needed what she controlled. But I was a crack in the foundation. My existence linked her old identity to her new one, a single thread that could unravel everything she had built. If the wrong people confirmed who I was, I wouldn't be collateral damage. I would be leverage. I learned that the night of the fire, she didn't go back inside for me. She went back inside to destroy the last remaining piece of her work. A prototype capable of influencing behavior at a mass scale. A system that could reshape societies without them ever realizing it. She chose to burn it. She chose to burn herself with it. Or at least, the version of herself that existed as my mother. For 10 years, she watched me from a distance, paid for my education anonymously, redirected threats I never knew existed. Every choice she made was calculated around one goal, keeping me alive without letting me be seen. Until the gala. Seeing me shattered the balance she had maintained for a decade. Because once she saw me, she knew it was only a matter of time before others did too. The surveillance around me intensified. My digital footprint vanished piece by piece. Records disappeared, accounts closed. My life was being dismantled quietly, efficiently, the same way hers had been. I was given a choice without being asked: remain visible and become a weakness, or disappear and survive. Within days, my name no longer existed in any official system. My past became unverifiable. Friends stopped being able to find me. My world narrowed until only the truth remained. The last image burned into my mind was her face reflected in a wall of screens, older and harder than the woman I remembered, carrying the weight of a future she never wanted but accepted anyway. The fire didn't kill my mom. It forged her into something untouchable. And now, as my old life faded into smoke, I realized it was doing the same to me. Because survival, I learned too late, always comes at a cost.